So good morning and welcome to Monday Mornings with Margie. Happy that you're here and sorry that we missed a couple weeks, but happy to be back. And we have a lovely guest with us today, Mychal Connolly, who with short notice was able to connect with me today. And the focus today is going to be on suicide and suicide prevention. So I am going to let Mychal introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, like you said, Mike Connolly, I'm known in Western Mass as Mr. Stinky Cakes. That's a whole nother story. You can Google that. But we're here today to talk about suicide prevention. And for me, man, it's a thing that has affected me. And that's why I do so much around it and spreading awareness about it.
So what made you, if you could tell the listeners, what made you become so passionate about suicide and suicide prevention?
So it's funny. So about 2 years ago, a buddy of mine who was actually one of the first people to invest in the company that I had. He's like, "Hey, Mike, I believe in you. Here's a check." And this was like a couple of businesses ago. And he had moved to Florida. His name is Nathaniel Davis. Good guy, real quiet guy. He was always to himself. He was, and he came back and we met at the Barnes & Noble in Holyoke, Mass. We were sitting down talking. He was telling about his digital coin business and how it was going and what the vision. And he was like so enthusiastic about it. And I was giving him some marketing ideas because that's what I do best is marketing. And we had made plans because I was taking my family to Florida. And he was like, "Hey, when you come down, you should come see me." I was like, "Okay, if I can." But I mean, we did end up doing the theme park thing and just had no time. And I promise you, it might have been like a couple of days after we came back from Florida. I looked on my social media and someone posted, "You just never know what someone's going through. I can't believe he's gone." I was like, so I'm looking at the pictures, like 4 guys. I was like, "Okay, that's you. You posted it. Nate's here." I wish, well, what happened to one of these other 2 guys? Because I don't know him. So I messaged the guy. I said, what happened? What's going on in this picture? He goes, "Oh, you don't know?" I said, "No." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Yeah, man, Nate shot himself in front of his wife last night." And I was like, and it was just like, even replaying it, like I had the same shock feeling, It's like, if you ask me, man, I didn't know he was going through anything. I didn't know. And I just always felt so bad because, you always get the Facebook post says, "Hey, copy and paste this to suicide prevention." And it was around that time and I didn't copy and paste it. And I was like, man, maybe if I copied and pasted it, he would have seen it because it came from me and he might have said, "Mike, I'm something." So I ended up buying a digital billboard truck, standouttruck.com. And it was funny because part of my business plan, if you ever read Think and Grow Rich, they talk about the ether and putting your thoughts out there and all this other stuff. And I do that a lot. And when I was writing my business plan for Standout Truck, I was like, you know what? I'm part of what I'm gonna do. I have to put like a "You Matter" message. And this was before everything was Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff. This was pre that. This was like in December, January. And what I did was I wanted to put at the end of the night a "You Matter" message. And I didn't tell anybody this. So, I started building my business, started growing. And MHA reached out and said, "Hey, we want to do a suicide," and they didn't know about Nate because I don't really talk about it. So what ended up happening was they ended up hiring us to do for the whole month to do a suicide prevention message and help them further their mission. And it to me, it was like I had to do it. So we ended up they ended up getting a nonprofit discount and we gave them some extra time just because I feel like there's a stigma around mental health, and I feel like it shouldn't be, because if I was hungry and I came to you, you would feed me. Mm-hmm. If I was down and out or needed a couple dollars, even if you didn't know me and I told you what was going on, you would help me. Mm-hmm. So why is not the same thing when you have these things in your head that you're dealing with and you feel inadequate, and like it shouldn't be a stigma. Like, you should be able to ask for help. Mm-hmm. That's what we teach our kids. I teach my sons that, bro, if you don't know something, ask for help. Mm-hmm. So like to be able to be a part of something to let people know, hey, it's okay to ask for help. If you're going through stuff, please talk to somebody, because man, if people are going through that and feel like suicide is the only way out, I think what they sometimes don't understand or may not feel in that moment is the people whose lives that affected after that person is gone. It is
Sure.
never the same. So that's all of that. That's one long answer as to why I felt obligated to do what I do and put that message on my truck and just let people know, like, here's these phone numbers, here's this, here's where you can go, here's the resource. And it's so funny, but not like haha funny, but like doing that. And I realized how many communities have these type of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like people have been reaching out on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and saying, hey, we have this too, and we do this too, and we do that. And just my family and friends that I know personally, because they see that billboard driving through the streets on the standout truck, they call me and they go, Mike, that's a really positive message that you spread. And so like, I'm saying, well, see, now people are at least starting to talk. And
Absolutely.
so that's why, to me, I think is a great thing.
Yeah, I think, you just touched on a number of things. I guess the first thing I'd like to reflect on is, that sense of guilt that people are left with when somebody they know suicides, which you talk about, like, for yourself, like, what if I would have copied and pasted something on Facebook? Would that have changed the outcome, right? So one of the biggest things with suicide is the guilt it leaves for people who are left behind, even though it was a choice made by the person who actually committed suicide. And the second thing you talk about is, you're exactly right. Often people really feel when they're desperate, they're in tunnel vision. So they're not thinking about all these people love me. They're not thinking about, I'm going to affect all these people's lives by doing this one act. They're in tunnel vision, they're desperate, and they're just focused on that option. But if someone comes in and reaches out in some way, or they know there's people out there, the potential is that they could make a different choice, but that's not always the case. And the other thing I think you point out, which I've covered in some of my other segments, is just around stigma around mental health. And one thing I didn't know, even though I've worked in mental health for 20 plus years, was that depression is the leading the leading disease in the world. Wow. And the leading cause of disability in the world. But when you think about how much we talk about it, we don't talk about it. Like, you talk about cancer, you talk about diabetes, heart disease, and not that those aren't really important, but how much do you hear people talking about depression and suicide? Not as much, not as often. So explain to me a little bit more about the standouttruck.com. What exactly, just explain it to me.
So like I said, about a year ago, let me rewind. Yeah. So I wrote a book called Launch and Stand Out. And because of that book, I ended up creating a mastermind group, because, people say, hey, Mike, what do you mean this? What do you mean by this in the book? What do you mean by that in the book? So I started hearing these questions. So I created a mastermind group so everyone could kind of discuss the book. And then I had one of my mentors, who was the guy who started the Vermont Teddy Bear Company, John Sortino. This guy did $120 million selling teddy bears. Like, he's way more successful as financially than most people I know. Mm-hmm. So I said, John, help me teach people how to make their first 100,000. Because I believe if people could do that, they can kind of duplicate. Because he taught me a lot. And likewise, Mike Kittredge, who started the Yankee Candle Company. And John and Mike never had a conversation together ever. But I could hear John say something. I could hear Mike say something. I go, you guys are saying the same thing. So I wanted John to break that down. So that's what it became the 100-grand plan. So in the mastermind, I was teaching people, like, step by step what to do for marketing to get customers from all across the country. And then I realized, like, a lot of them still couldn't do marketing. So I was like, all right, well, I'll create a small little marketing agency and I'll do your marketing for you. It was just really for the group. So while doing marketing for the group, I was doing a lot of media buying, and I was just seeing where, digital ads were going, not just on Facebook and Google and online, but also like how a lot of the billboards were switching to digital and how that works. And I became fascinated by it. And anytime I become fascinated by something, I normally jump in. So I said, you know what, I gotta start buying boards, like not just buying them, like I wanted to own them. And then I ended up buying my first truck in March. So it came in March, and I was like, yeah, I'm about to take over the world. And then like 2 weeks later, they shut down the world. So that was fun. But what I ended up doing, and this, if you're a business person thinking about being in business or just like have a success mindset, you always have to see the end goal, like, because it's always going to be things that come up. So what I did, instead of feeling sorry for myself, because of the book, I go into a lot of schools and I talk to a lot of, high school kids and college kids and even middle school kids. So I knew a lot of the high school seniors and I knew a lot of kids graduating from college. And I was like, man, we got to do something special for them. So then I was like, well, I'm going to put this business, advertising businesses on hold, and I'll just start celebrating the kids. So like, what I ended up doing was we would have the 2020 grads in the truck. Then we would go to their house and take photos and give them a moment, because they didn't have that graduation moment. So that became the thing with the truck. But essentially, to answer your question, it's a digital billboard, 3-sided LED screens, and we drive through our communities with messages on it. Like we celebrate people, and we do that. It's just a fun thing to call a job.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. And so as far as the advertising or what you're putting out there related to suicide and depression and people feeling like they have options or can reach out, what exactly does that look like? I'm trying to visualize it for myself.
Yeah, so I mean, it's simple. So what it looks like. So just picture a box truck with messages that flash, right? So like, for example, with the campaign that we have now, I think we have 4 messages, 2 in English, 2 in Spanish. One talks about, let's get the conversation started, like conversations change things. And then it has the phone number and the website that they could call for help. It's pretty cool. It's like simple messaging. Like,
sure.
The best ads that we have on the truck are ones that just get right to the point, because like our goal is to inform the drivers, not to distract the drivers. So it should be something they could get real quick without even have to like turn their head, like, look, but what's that? Is like, so it's kind of like a quick thing.
Okay. That's cool. Thank you for explaining that. So what communities do you serve? Where are you driving?
Right now we cover New England. So we're based out of Springfield, Mass. But we go anywhere. If it's about an hour out, we have a travel fee. But even with that, we'll travel with your message on the way to where we're going. And then some people book us hourly, weekly, for the day, which is 8 hours, for the month. So we just travel. And the cool part is we look at it's funny because most people go into GPSs and try to avoid the traffic. But we have a system that the traffic is, and we drive into the traffic.
Yeah.
To spread messages. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And actually, you could see actually see that campaign that we're talking about for the suicide prevention campaign. If you go on standouttruck.com on the homepage, the video is right there. You could see it.
Awesome. I will definitely do that. What have you learned in this process? I'm just curious.
What part? What do you mean?
Well, the process of what happened to your friend and then taking on this, this collaborative connection with Mental Health Association and trying to get the word out to people about, reaching out if they need help. What is it? Is there any kind of things that have, epiphanies or things that have come to you from it?
No, two things. One thing is like really, really be there for your friends. Mm-hmm. I know we say that and I'm here for you, but like, and there's no way to know, but you got to be the guy or the lady that your friends know, like, if I'm going through something, I can go to that person and they're not really going to put my business out there. Mm-hmm. Like be that person. Sure. And make sure you have someone that's that person for you too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so, and just get the conversation going before it's you say, hey, Mike, listen, man, I just want you to know if you ever going through anything, you need anything, just I'm here. I'm not saying that you need it. I'm just saying I'm here. Like,
Right.
Let your friends know you're that person. And then the second thing is that, man, Nate was something else, man. He's gone and he's still opening doors for me. He's still creating opportunities. It's weird because like he was such a given person.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, you know, the saddest part for me is that his sons won't really ever get to know him, and his daughter won't even really get to know him. I mean, we could talk about him, but that's what he cared about. You know what I mean? He was different. See, this is the thing. Nate was different in the way, like he was so quiet. He was always to himself anyway. Like, you know what I mean? So you wouldn't be like, oh wow, he became real withdrawn. You couldn't do that, right? And then like he took his sons out of school to homeschool them because he didn't like the way the school was teaching them. Like he's that kind of person.
Right.
But I mean, now turning something sad into like a positive in a sense, like, you know, how can I help? How can I help other people? Like, because I really don't want anybody to ever feel what I feel with that. Like, just that feeling, like I said, it's just like man, it's like you said it's a guilt, like it's a real guilt. Like I was just talking to the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I feel bad because we went to the theme parks. I should have went to his house. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, man, I should have hit the share. Like, it's like, so like, if, you know, so throughout the whole process, like I said, the two things would be make yourself the person that people know they can really talk to and trust, and no one's going to do it. And then, you know, everything that we go through, man, is always a silver lining. Is like when I told him, it's funny, not how funny yet again. When I said to MHA, yeah, I had a friend that, you know, that committed suicide. It wasn't even for them to run with that, but that ended up becoming one of the focal points of that campaign, because we ended up doing a whole media blitz with that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But just to get people to understand, like, this is real, man. This is, you know, especially and then on the flip side, and I haven't said this at all, especially in the African American community, like, mm-hmm. You talk about we supposed to be tough and this and that, man. Listen. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother aspect of it, you know, just
absolutely
just being able to attack that stigma for just this is another thing too. Like, I know we're in a time where like racial tension is so tight, but something like this shows like no matter what you look like, it shows how silly like racism is. Like, no matter what you look like, we all going through the same thing, because you got the part where, you know, the young African American kids, it's suicide is huge for them. Then you have where the white males is huge for them. Like, and like we all dealing with the same stuff, no matter what we look like.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's another thing. But no, it's
pain is real for everyone.
For everyone.
But there may be different causes of pain for different people, but the pain is real for everyone. And so I think what you're doing is amazing. And we will list your website up here, and we will also be listing other websites or phone numbers that are for suicide prevention. So if there's anybody that happens to be watching or listening to us, they will be able to access that information as well, and know that there are resources out there for them. So I appreciate your time. And I love your energy. It's great. And you know, Nate had a very good friend in you, and you know, it's good that you're doing this in his name. So thank you for your time, and thank you to everyone who's listening in today. We appreciate your time, and we hope you have a great week.
Thank you.